While you are sitting here right now, something is happening inside your chest. Most cardiac events after 60 do not happen at noon. They happen between 2 and 6 in the morning, while you are asleep, while no one is watching. And here is the part that stopped me cold when I first saw the data. In the vast majority of those cases, the trigger was not a blocked artery that appeared overnight. It was something that happened the evening before bed, during what seemed like a completely ordinary night. I have spent more than 2 decades in cardiovascular medicine, and what I can tell you with absolute certainty is this: the most preventable damage I have seen was set in motion by 5 habits that most people over 60 practice every single night, without knowing it, without anyone ever explaining the risk. Tonight, I am going to show you all 5, and I am going to show you exactly how to stop them. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you will have something most patients leave my office without: a clear plan for what to do tonight. Not next month, tonight. What country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments right now. I read every single one. Now, before I get into the 5 habits, I need to give you something most videos skip: context. Why is the night different after 60? Why does it matter so much more now than it did when you were 45? Here is the thing. Your cardiovascular system does not actually rest when you sleep. It shifts gears. In a younger, healthier body, nighttime triggers a beautiful biological reset. Blood pressure drops 10 to 20% below daytime levels. Heart rate slows. Arteries relax. Your body uses those hours to repair micro damage from the day. Think of it like a construction crew coming in after hours to fix the roads. Quiet, efficient, protective. But after 60, that crew starts showing up late, or with fewer workers, or with faulty equipment. Blood vessel walls stiffen. The hormonal signals that once triggered that overnight pressure drop become less reliable. The margin for error shrinks dramatically. And here is what that means in practical terms. During the day, your cardiovascular system has backup mechanisms. It compensates. It adapts. At night, many of those mechanisms are essentially offline. Your body is running on a skeleton crew. And what determines whether that skeleton crew can handle the night shift is almost entirely what you did in the hours before you fell asleep. That is the context. Now let us talk about the 5 habits. And I want to start with the one that surprises my patients the most, because it seems so innocent. Sandra is 67, retired postal worker from Virginia. She came to me about 2 years ago with morning readings that were completely unpredictable: 158 over 92 one day, 164 the next. She was already on medication. She was taking it every morning like clockwork. She could not understand why the numbers were not stable. Now, Sandra represents a pattern I have seen dozens of times, and when I asked her one simple question, everything clicked. What time do you eat dinner? She said around 8:30, sometimes 9. A full meal, usually pasta or rice with meat. Then she would sit on the couch for an hour and go to bed. Here is what was happening inside her body every single night. A heavy meal triggers a massive increase in blood flow to the digestive system. Your heart has to work significantly harder. Blood pressure rises. Triglycerides in your bloodstream spike within 2 to 4 hours after eating. Now combine that with going to sleep. Your body expects the evening to be a period of winding down. Instead, it is managing a cardiovascular emergency while simultaneously trying to shift into recovery mode. Those two demands compete directly with each other. For someone over 60 with even moderate arterial stiffness, that conflict can be genuinely dangerous. A meta-analysis in the Journal of the American Heart Association looked at over 11,000 adults. The finding was striking. Eating within 2 hours of bedtime was associated with a 31% higher incidence of elevated nighttime blood pressure. 31%. From dinner timing alone. The solution is not complicated. Finish your main meal by 6 or 7 in the evening whenever possible. If you need to eat later, keep it light. Lean protein, vegetables, a small amount of complex carbohydrate. Not a feast, not skipping dinner, just a balanced meal at a sensible hour. Now I need to pause here and tell you something about Sandra's case specifically, because it gets more interesting. I asked her when she took her blood pressure medication. Every morning at 7 a.m., she said, exactly as prescribed. And that was the second problem. Not that she was taking it, but when. Here's what most patients have never been told. Blood pressure follows a daily rhythm. It rises in the morning, peaks in the afternoon, and is supposed to fall at night. But a significant percentage of adults over 60, especially those with hypertension, never experience that normal nighttime drop. Their pressure stays elevated, or worse. It surges in the early morning hours while they sleep. This is called nocturnal hypertension, and it is far more dangerous than ordinary daytime high blood pressure. Why? Because your arterial walls are not braced for sudden pressure spikes while you sleep. A surge at 3 in the morning hits differently than a surge at 3 in the afternoon. It is more likely to rupture a vulnerable plaque inside a coronary artery, more likely to trigger a clot, more likely to cause the kind of silent damage that shows up weeks later as a heart attack or stroke. If your medication wears off by midnight, you are completely unprotected during the most dangerous hours. A 2022 analysis in the European Heart Journal followed nearly 9,000 patients. The result was clear. Taking blood pressure medication in the evening rather than the morning reduced major cardiovascular events by 34%. 34%. From a timing change alone. Now, I am not telling you to change your medication schedule on your own. Please do not do that. But I am telling you to bring this up at your next appointment. Ask specifically, should I be taking this in the evening instead? That one conversation, 2 minutes in a doctor's office, could be the most important medical discussion you have this year. Sandra did exactly that. Her doctor switched her to evening dosing. Within 6 weeks, her morning readings dropped an average of 18 points. The same medication, different clock. But here is what nobody tells you about sleep. And this one genuinely shocked me when I first understood the full picture. Do you snore? Or has someone ever told you that you stop breathing while you sleep? I need you to sit with that question for a moment, because the answer may matter more than any medication you are currently taking. Sleep apnea affects more than 30% of adults over 60, and the vast majority have never been diagnosed. They have no idea what is happening inside their bodies every single night. Here is what an episode of sleep apnea actually looks like at the biological level. You stop breathing. 10 seconds, 40 seconds, sometimes longer. Your blood oxygen drops sharply. Your brain detects a crisis. It immediately floods your body with adrenaline. Your heart rate surges. Your blood pressure spikes. Your cardiovascular system is jolted into emergency mode, while the rest of you remains asleep. Think of it like pulling a fire alarm in a building where everyone is asleep. The alarm blares. Emergency systems activate. Doors slam open. Then silence. Then 30 minutes later, the alarm blares again, all night long. That is what untreated sleep apnea does to your heart. Every single night. A large cohort study in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found something striking. Obstructive sleep apnea is associated with a 2.6 times higher risk of a fatal cardiac event compared to people without it, and nearly 9 in 10 people with the condition have never been treated. The warning signs are not always obvious snoring. Watch for these. Waking with morning headaches, feeling exhausted despite a full night of sleep, needing to urinate 2 or 3 times before morning, waking with a dry mouth, or waking with a sensation of gasping or choking. If any of those sound familiar, talk to your doctor about a sleep study. In 2025, home sleep tests are available. No overnight hospital stay required. Now, I want to connect something here, because Sandra had a third habit that was quietly compounding everything else. And this is the one I almost did not include in this video, because it sounds almost too simple. But the data on it is genuinely hard to argue with. She was not drinking enough water in the evenings. And before you say, well, that is obvious, let me explain exactly why this matters for your heart specifically after 60, because it is not what most people think. When you are even mildly dehydrated, your blood becomes more viscous, thicker. Picture the difference between fresh olive oil and oil that has been sitting in the sun all summer. Same substance, completely different consistency. Thicker blood flows more slowly through your vessels. It is more likely to form clots. It places greater demand on a heart that is already working harder than it should be. Now combine that with what happens during sleep. Your heart rate naturally slows. Blood circulation decreases. Your body stays in the same position for 7 or 8 hours. If your blood is already thick, and it is moving slowly through arteries that may already be partially narrowed, you have created almost ideal conditions for a cardiovascular event. Here is what makes this worse after 60 specifically. Your thirst sensation becomes less accurate with age. You may be significantly dehydrated without feeling thirsty at all. A 2023 study from Johns Hopkins University found something that stopped me cold. Adults over 65 could not accurately detect their own dehydration state in nearly 62% of cases, walking around significantly dehydrated without knowing it. Now, I understand why many of my patients deliberately reduce their evening fluid intake. Getting up at 2 in the morning is disruptive. Falls in the dark are a real concern. Those are legitimate reasons. But the solution is not to stop drinking water. The solution is to drink smarter. 1 glass of water before bed, 8 ounces. That is all you need. Enough to prevent your blood from becoming unnecessarily thick during those quiet hours when your heart has the fewest defenses. Keep a glass on your bedside table. If you wake up thirsty in the night, your body is signaling something your heart also needs. Hydrate slightly, then go back to sleep. Now pay close attention to what I am about to say, because this 4th habit catches nearly everyone off guard, and I have seen it directly connected to hospitalizations that should never have happened. What is the temperature in your bedroom at night? Most people have never thought about that from a cardiovascular perspective. They think about comfort. They think about whether they sleep hot or cold. But your heart does not care about your preferences. It responds to temperature the same way it responds to any physical stress. Here is the mechanism. A bedroom that is too warm, above approximately 22 degrees Celsius or 72 degrees Fahrenheit, forces your body to work continuously through the night to release excess heat. Your blood vessels dilate, your heart rate stays elevated, you sweat. That fluid loss adds to the dehydration problem we just discussed. And perhaps most importantly, your sleep quality deteriorates. You spend less time in deep, restorative sleep. And deep sleep is when your cardiovascular system performs its most critical overnight maintenance. On the other end, a bedroom that is genuinely too cold, below 16 or 17 degrees Celsius, creates the opposite problem. Cold triggers vasoconstriction. Your blood vessels tighten to preserve core body temperature. As they constrict, your blood pressure rises. Your heart pumps against greater resistance. For someone with existing coronary artery disease, that nightly increase in pressure is not a small thing. The optimal range for both sleep quality and cardiovascular protection is between 18 and 22 degrees Celsius, 65 to 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Within that window, your body maintains what physiologists call a thermally neutral state. Blood vessels relaxed, heart rate low, sleep deep and restorative. 1 thermostat adjustment. Real protection. And here is the 5th habit, the one that ties everything together, the one that is so fundamental that every other habit on this list depends on it. Sandra had been skipping her bedtime water for 3 years, but she had also been doing something else that was silently compounding the risk from habits 1 through 4, and it was something she did not even recognize as a habit. She was staying on her phone until 11:30 at night, scrolling, reading, watching short videos, right up until the moment she turned off the light. Here's what that does to your cardiovascular system. The blue light emitted by screens suppresses melatonin production. Not slightly, significantly. A Harvard Medical School study found that 2 hours of evening screen exposure can suppress melatonin by up to 22%. Melatonin is not just a sleep hormone, it is also a direct vasodilator. It helps your blood vessels relax during the night. It plays a role in overnight blood pressure reduction. When melatonin is suppressed, that natural evening drop in blood pressure that your heart depends on does not happen as reliably. And it is not just melatonin. Evening screen use keeps your sympathetic nervous system, your stress response system, in an activated state well past when it should be winding down. Heart rate stays elevated. Cortisol remains high. You eventually fall asleep. But you do not enter deep sleep as quickly. And the cardiovascular reset that should happen during those early hours of sleep is incomplete. Step away from your screen by 9 p.m. 60 to 90 minutes before bed. That window allows your melatonin to rise naturally, your nervous system to shift from alert to rest, your heart to begin its overnight recovery before you even close your eyes. Now let me bring all 5 together, because this is the part most videos leave out. And it is the part that determines whether any of this actually changes anything for you. The 5 habits are not 5 separate problems. They are one interconnected system. Late dinner creates cardiovascular stress that overlaps with the hours when your medication has worn off. Dehydration thickens blood that is already being pumped through constricted vessels from the cold or against elevated pressure from uncontrolled nocturnal hypertension. Screen use suppresses the melatonin that would normally help your blood vessels relax during the first hours of sleep. And untreated sleep apnea floods your system with adrenaline 30 or 40 times a night, triggering pressure spikes that hit your already vulnerable arteries in the early morning hours, when every other protective mechanism is at its lowest ebb. When those 5 habits occur together, as they so often do, the risk is not additive. It is compounding. Here is what Sandra did over the next 8 weeks. She moved dinner to 6:30. She switched to evening blood pressure medication after discussing it with her doctor. She got a home sleep study done. Her results showed moderate sleep apnea. She started using a CPAP device. She placed a glass of water on her nightstand every evening. She turned off her phone at 9. Within 8 weeks, her morning readings stabilized. 128/79. Consistent. For the first time in 4 years. Now, Sandra's results were on the better end of what I typically see. Your experience may vary. Some people respond faster, some slower, and the sleep apnea diagnosis changed things significantly for her. But the direction was clear, and that is what I want you to hold on to. If this is helping you, hit like right now. It tells the algorithm to show this to someone else over 60 who does not yet know any of this, and that person might be the one who needed it most. Here is exactly what I want you to do tonight, not a list to consider later. Tonight. First, eat your main meal no later than 7 p.m. If it is already past that, keep tonight light. Small protein, vegetables, plenty of water. Second, if you take blood pressure medication in the morning and your numbers are still inconsistent, write a note to yourself right now. Bring this up at your next appointment. Ask directly about evening dosing. Third, do you snore? Do you wake exhausted despite sleeping 8 hours? Have you ever been told you stop breathing at night? If the answer to any of those is yes, call your doctor's office tomorrow morning and ask about a sleep study referral. This is not optional. This is essential cardiac care. Fourth, fill a glass of water right now if you have not had anything to drink in the last 2 hours. Place another on your bedside table before you sleep tonight. Fifth, set an alarm on your phone for 9 p.m. When it goes off, put the phone down, read a book, sit quietly. Let your nervous system begin its descent before sleep begins. Now here is what to expect in the first week. I'm going to be honest with you. Week 1 is slightly uncomfortable. Earlier dinner feels off. The no phone rule feels restrictive. Your body has built these routines over decades, and it does not immediately celebrate change. That discomfort is temporary. Week 2, most people begin noticing something. Morning readings that feel slightly more stable. Waking up with just a little more energy. Small things, but real. Week 3, this is when patients usually contact me. Not with problems, with updates. Numbers that have not looked like that in years. A spouse who mentions that the snoring has changed. A sense of actually feeling rested for the first time in a long time. The biology is not complicated. Your cardiovascular system has wanted to do this work all along. You are simply removing the obstacles. One more thing before I close. Everything I have shared with you today is based on published cardiovascular research and clinical pattern recognition. It is not a replacement for your personal medical care. Before making any changes to your medication schedule or adding new health practices, especially if you have an existing heart condition, please talk to your own doctor. Bring this information with you. The references are listed in the description below. Now, type in the comments, which of these 5 habits do you recognize in yourself? I have a feeling at least 2 or 3 of them sound familiar. You are not alone in that. And if someone in your life, a spouse, a sibling, a close friend over 60, has never had this conversation about their evening routine and their heart, share this video with them today. Not tomorrow, today. That share costs you nothing. What it gives them could be everything. Do not let anyone tell you it is too late, because it is not. Next week, I am going to show you something that surprised even me when I first saw the research. There is one food that approximately 73% of people over 60 eat multiple times per week. That has a direct effect on nighttime blood pressure that almost no one is aware of. And it is not what you think it is. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss that one. Until then, take good care of the heart that has been working faithfully for you every minute of every day. It deserves this.